All right, one more time today. Let's do this. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to AOL Build. How y'all feeling? Are you doing all right today? Kicking off the week off strong. I meant what I said. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Happy 5th of July, also an important day. And so excited to have you guys here with us at the AOL Build Studios live in New York. We are having a great time. We got one more for you, and it is crazy cool, my friends. And just a few, yeah, that's right. One person who wooed is correct, because in just a few short seconds, our final guest today is none other than Mr. Michael Emerson is here. Oh, my God. He's one of those dudes, man. I love this guy. Everything he's in, I watch. I love him. I'm so happy he's here. I'm very excited. You guys sound very excited as well, so we're going to have a lot of fun. He'll be out here in just a second. And what better way to cap off the day than one more interview with our dear friend, AOL Build's very own seasoned entertainment journalist, Donna Freakin. Make some noise for Donna. She'll be up here leading the conversation. It's going to be good. It's going to be a great time. They're going to have a little bit of fun. We'll open it up, take some questions from you guys. So if this is your first time here, welcome. Think of a great question. When we get to the second half, we'll start passing mics around. You get to ask a question or two. Those tuning in live for the first time, welcome to you as well. Don't feel left out. I'd love for you to send us a question. You can tweet at us at AOL Build. You're also welcome to press that button right over there. It says submit a question on it. Give it a single click, type your question in there, send it our way, and maybe, just maybe, we'll read it live on the air. We'll see what happens. Fingers crossed. I'm rooting for you. I think we got a clip we're going to take a look at, and then we'll get Michael on out here, and we'll kick this off. But before we do any of that, I got one more question for you. I'm going to ask it last time today. Are you guys hyped that he's here? Let him know. I want to make sure you're pumped. Like I am. Sarah, are you pumped? She ain't even looking. She ain't even looking at me. That's how pumped she is. Thank you for that. Let's go ahead and run that clip.
Are you there?
Yes. I'm sorry. Is this now?
What?
My mind is beginning to slip, Harry. Am I speaking to you now, in this moment? Or is this one of my memories?
Yes, to the extent that it's possible for me to be certain, this is now.
Thank you. We have 8.5 minutes, give or take.
Then I'm gonna rest for a bit. I know what happened to John, but the others. Do you think that they're still... Did they make it?
I'm sorry, Harold. I'm not sure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time. Put your hands together, and please welcome your moderator, AOL Build's very own Donna Freakin, and today's guest from Person of Interest, Mr. Michael Emerson.
Thank you so much for being here.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
Happy post-4th of July.
Yeah, we got through that.
We got through that.
And I got through this.
Well,
that was big.
Congratulations on 100. I mean, you guys did, what was it like shooting the 100th episode of the show?
It was great. It was a little hard to absorb at the time. You know, when you're in the middle of shooting a thing, it's just like, can I just get these lines? Can I just get this scene? And then, oh my God, what do I have tomorrow? So you never enjoy it in that way on the day. So then fortunately, there's a video record of it, so then you can go back and look at it and pat yourself on the back. It was hard work, but a good show, I think.
It was a great show, and you guys had amazing reviews. It is I mean, it lives. That's the magic of the internet, right? It lives on forever.
Yeah, it's nice that way, and a little terrifying at the same time.
Well, did you imagine it would end the way it did when you read the first script? Do you have any ideas for what would happen to Finch?
No. When you read the first script, when you read the pilot script, you can't even imagine that there'll be a second script, much less 5 seasons and some kind of crazy good ending. And I couldn't predict the ending of the show when it came time for there to be an ending. I kept thinking, oh, we'll see it coming. Shooting season 5, episodes 8, 9, 10 in there. You think, oh, there's 3 more. What is it? What's it going to be? And then it did kind of reveal itself at the end, and I was surprised at Mr. Finch's solution to the problem of Samaritan, but I shouldn't have been, because it's the best one. It's the most humane. And I liked the tone of the ending, kind of a spiritual reunion and recap of their lives together. It was good that way.
How do you think Finch evolved over all the seasons?
He didn't have... There is, of course, some evolution. I'd say it's fairly nuanced. He still is what he was when we met him, but he's less lonely, I think, and less suicidal, less hopeless. They were really on a suicide mission in season 1, it seemed like, and there wasn't as much joy in it as there eventually was discovered. And then that family feeling that he developed with Mr. Reese, I thought that was a nice thing that evolved. And the humor of the show, although there wasn't a lot of laughs, there were some, that kind of gallows humor, or having a good laugh just before you step off the roof. Those kind of gags, and then washing the dog, and getting stuck with babies, and all those kinds of things, which were fun and I think helped the audience to warm up to these characters, because, as Jonah Nolan is fond of saying, you don't have a show if the audience isn't right there with the characters. Character is what makes a show go on.
Absolutely. And do you remember when you read the first script, or the pilot rather, what made you say yes to this? What grabbed you?
I remember reading it, and I remember thinking it was really cool. I'm afraid my response was wasn't very sophisticated. I just liked that it mostly took part at night in New York City. But
you could walk to work.
Be careful of that. A thing that you like watching, you may not want to actually be shooting it for 5 years, because the nights are long and cold, and so. But I liked that noir feeling of the show, and the kind of Cape Crusader element of it, and the lonely and desperate mission, and the science fiction trappings, although they didn't end up being very fictional.
I know, right? It's actually horrifying how prescient that show was.
Yeah, there was a point, I can't remember what season, you probably know better than I, season 2 or 3 with Snowden and stuff, and we realized that we weren't out in the lead anymore, that world events were leading our story rather than following or echoing. It was interesting. Probably, it doesn't make that much difference to the actors, because you're just going to go in and play the scenes every day. But to the writers, imagine, they're in the writer's room, they're going, oh my God, how can we top the stuff that's going on in the real world? What could be more thrilling than real life events?
I know whenever we have political, the folks from Veep here, I'm always like, what is it like watching a show and seeing what you play, but it doesn't even measure up to reality? Yeah.
But maybe that's a conundrum that we're all living in now in our culture, in our media-drenched culture. Doesn't bear much thinking about.
I know, right? It's kind of. I know. And now I'm sitting here thinking wow, that's depressing.
Let's stop talking.
On a happier note, what's it like shooting at night in New York? What was the craziest experience you ever had?
We had a lot of crazy experiences. There's all categories of crazy experience.
Hit me.
There's danger, there's bad weather, being on really high places with low parapets and strong winds. That'll get me every time. I'm not real fond of, that last scene, that clip there, how they found 2 skyscrapers of the same height that were right next to each other. I can't remember where we shot it. It was in the financial district. Huh?
Oh my God, okay. You're a super fan. I love it.
But it was cool, right? we could actually look at each other across that distance. Couldn't hear each other speak, so that had to be relayed by walkie-talkie and stuff.
That must be the freakiest thing to be on a skyscraper at night like that. Like where it's just, well, it's not just you, it's a whole crew, but it's basically just you.
Or in deep underground, dark places in the city, like being in the main public library at 4 a.m. with just a few lights. So that place is all shadows and caves and echoes and stuff. It was it's really romantic. And I shot, I mean, where did we not get into? We shot at the Guggenheim Museum in the middle of the night one time. Really cool.
That's awesome, especially living here, that you can do that.
Yeah, to get in buildings that, well, you know, we go to these places, but we're never in there by ourselves at night. For fictional purposes.
Still, I mean, come on. What's when I say person of interest, what is the main memory that pops into your head?
The main memory?
Mm-hmm.
I think of Jim Caviezel and I walking down some desolate street, having a life or death conversation. Often wrangling a big, strong dog at the same time. That'll be one of my seminal memories of that show.
Okay, what about when I say Lost?
What I'll remember from Lost?
Mm-hmm. Come on, you went down in history as one of the greatest TV villains of all time.
It was cool.
I love that's like the understatement of the decade. It was cool.
I chiefly, I mean, if I had to distill it, I suppose running through the jungle at night. That's because it's dangerous and exhilarating at the same time. Taking a lot of beatings. I took a lot of beatings on that show, and also being confined in little cells or torture rooms and having these desperate chess game kinds of conversations with John Locke or whoever, you know, some other equally dangerous, mysterious character. I always like that. But that's the thing you like best about any show, or that I like best, is I could say the same thing about person of interest. Being in a pressure cooker situation, being in a cell or an interrogation room or something, and everything is still because the stakes are too high for anything outside the conversation and who will prevail in the conversation.
You've mastered the art of playing still, like that inner stillness that I think so few actors have because they tend to over-emote and overreact and overact. How did you get to that place?
I don't know. I mean, like everything, I probably learned it on the stage somehow. It's a thing that, I mean, sometimes that's a Shakespearean lesson also. If the language is important enough, you should distract from it least. And also it lends power. And P.S., I do think it's realistic. I think when our life is on the line, you know, if our next answer means we live or die, we're going to be still and the wheels are going to be turning. That's what it's all about. I do think you can see sometimes in an actor's face that the wheels are turning, that things are being evaluated, decisions are being made. That I like to watch that, you know, if I'm watching TV or a movie or something.
What do you watch? What TV do you watch?
Well, I don't watch enough. It's embarrassing because I meet people and I say, hello, it's really nice to meet you, and then my wife Carrie later will go, do you know who that was? Do you have any idea? And I never know.
I read that when you got the script for Lost, when you first came on the show, you didn't even have a contract because you didn't know that you'd be coming back from episode to episode.
Oh, right. No, it was just a guest spot. I think it was to have been 3 episodes, you know, an arc. So I suppose the idea that I would be introduced, there would be a little development, and then I would be killed, and that would be it. And
as happened on Lost quite frequently.
Yeah, and I would go home, and I only took enough clothes in my suitcase for that to happen. So when they wouldn't let me go, it became kind of a problem.
Like a laundry issue?
Yeah. And there was one time when I flew all the way from Honolulu back to New York City, and when I got off the plane, the producers had left me a message saying I had to come back, which is actually a line from the series.
For those of you not aware, that's a 12-hour flight. Like, that's no joke. And you won an Emmy in 2009.
I did.
You must meet people every single day who are like, I loved you on Lost, the show changed my life, blah, 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 blah. What kind of encounters do you have with fans?
Well, all different kinds of encounters, and they're regular, and they never go away, really. Because the deal with Lost is, even though it's been 6 years since it wrapped, every year millions more people watch the whole show on discs or stream it somehow. So there's all new people come up to me on the street and say, I just finished the finale last night. And I think, yeah, here we go. Wait, all right, let's go back to that. And the next question is going to be, what the hell did that mean?
So what do you say?
I usually say,
call J.J. Abrams?
If I had more time, I would explain that to you right now, but I'm needed at the dentist's office.
Are you able, living in New York, are you able to just kind of go incognito? I assume so, right?
Not really invisibly, but I do like I always have done. I walk the streets, I ride the subways. It's the only way to get anywhere during the daytime. I'm afraid I have to confess that. But people stop me. Probably lots of people see me and know who I am and don't give a damn. That's also fine.
Well, they see you and they know who you are, but this being New York, it's way too cool to say anything.
I mean, it would be uncool
to be like, Michael, I love you. You're the best.
But mostly they say, I don't know your name. I don't know your character's name. I can't remember the name of that show, but you were good on it.
You're like, thank you. By the way, you have to tell us a story of how you got into acting, because I love it.
You mean as a boy?
As a boy, when you first felt the acting bug. Because you were an illustrator first.
Well, no, that comes much later. I mean, I've become an actor several times in my life, not always successfully. But when I was a boy, I went to a play at the high school, and an older boy from my church, it was Arsenic and Old Lace. You probably don't know that old chestnut of a play.
Oh, I know.
But there was a boy from my church who played the crazy uncle that thinks he's Teddy Roosevelt, and he's always charging up the stairs with a trumpet. And God only knows if it was good, bad, or indifferent, but I was hypnotized by this guy, and I thought, oh my God, how is it possible that he's that funny? I could have sat all night and watched him do it, and I thought, God, just let me be half that entertaining someday, and I will die happy.
And look at you now. Two big shows, right? I mean, that's a pretty stellar run.
Yeah, I've been fortunate. It was 2 good shows in a row, which is unheard of, I think.
Pretty much. And I know you want to do comedy next, you said?
Well,
Please, God, someone give you a comedy that isn't existential and, deep.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can be funny, and there's a bunch of ways to be funny. I'm not sure I'm a candidate for a 4-camera sitcom, but something. Or it could be a terribly serious show, and I was just the one funny person, or kind of funny. Sometimes, though, I always think, you are the funny one. Even though I'm on, terrifying shows like Lost or Person of Interest, so dangerous and sinister, but sometimes I think, am I the only one that gets that this is a funny show?
When did you first realize that you could make a living at this?
Late in life. It took a long time. I graduated undergrad with a theater degree, and I moved to New York City from small-town Iowa, and I just was not ready for New York. And got a retail job and took weekend courses in illustration, and I became a magazine illustrator, and I did that for 10 years. And then a romantic entanglement took me to Florida, and I kind of burnt my bridges, and it all fell apart, and there I was, high and dry. and needed to start over. And I thought, well, if I have to start over at this advanced stage, I might as well do what I please. It's never going to get any easier. If not now, when? So I started doing community theater. This is in Jacksonville, Florida. And hello out there in Jacksonville.
Hi, Jacksonville.
But I kind of clawed my way back toward New York for many years after that.
Now, as you've done the 2 shows back to back, what's been the best piece of advice you've gotten?
Well, anybody that tells you not to worry so much is on the right track. Best piece of advice I've gotten. Well, someone must have told me, because I turn around and tell it to young actors all the time, and that is, this is not a race. You know, if you're 23 and you're just out of grad school, some of your classmates may be famous in a year. Can you take it if you're not famous for 20 years? Because that could be it, and it could be great. But can you wait that long? Do you like it enough to be patient with it and just string it out and not compare yourself to all the other kids quite so much? Be a little bit oblivious or lost in your own little actor world. It would be better for everybody, I think.
That's actually really solid advice, because I think that everyone today is so fixated on social media, being famous, getting the endorsements.
Yeah. In a way, I'm fortunate that I started my acting career before there was social media. So it was easy for me to be an actor on the stage in Northeast Florida doing Shakespearean plays and feeling like this was the only theater world on the planet, which was it's a kind of a good thing to feel. I mean, you know that there's LA and there's New York and all of that, but if it's absolutely impossible and unreachable for you, then why meditate on it too much? Better to play this particular hand you're dealt with the idea that you might get to be a better and better player somehow, and then maybe one day you'll go to those bigger markets.
I mean, that's a great attitude, and I also read that you don't have an acting bucket list.
No, I don't, because I guarantee you if I made a list, I would then never do any of those roles, because all the good roles I ever had really came out of left field. I mean, Benjamin Linus, what the hell was that? You can't say, oh, I'd like to play a devious villain on a long-running fantasy adventure show. You just kind of have to take what comes, and often the stuff that comes is way better than the plan you could make. I could go around and bore people about how I'd like to play Richard II or something like that, but maybe it's better that I don't, and maybe it's way better that I just take these other jobs that I don't know anything about that come out of left field and run with them.
Do you go on instinct when you read a script? I mean, do you instantly know if it grabs you or not?
I do pretty much. My judgment is not faultless. I sometimes don't get things. Sometimes Carrie has to tell me why a thing is good, and then I'll go, oh, okay, that seems right. But generally, I do try to trust my own judgment. There's lots and lots of scripts. There's lots and lots of roles in this life. They don't have to be on network television. They could be, at a community theater, or it could be something in your neighborhood, or, there's all different ways to constantly be working, and I just have always done best and felt most secure if I was playing a piece where the writing was really good, and I guess I'm the final judge of whether it's good or not, but I do have a kind of an eye and an ear for that, and I suppose when I say that writing is good, I mean that it's a little bit elevated. It's not just conversation. It's not just hand me that hammer. It might be a little more conceptual or a little more philosophical. It might have some poetry in it, one would hope.
And makes you think.
Yeah.
And let's turn it over to our audience now. I bet you have a question.
Hi, Michael.
Hi.
Pleasure to be here. Pleasure for you to be here. So, what was your favorite memorable moment being on Saw this scary movie series. And did you stay in touch with other cast members like Tobin Bell?
No, I don't know what's happened to all those folks. Scary is the operative word for both the movie and the experience of shooting it, may I say. That was a rough, hard, fast shoot with bullets flying all the time and lots of wrestling and everything going way too fast and way unsafe. So I was so happy that I was able to walk away with as few injuries as I had from Saw. Yeah, but again, so why did you do that project? Because the script was great. It had the best surprise ending I think I had ever read on the page up to that point. And I thought, are you kidding me? The killer was lying in a pool of blood the whole damn time? It was so fantastic. So you do these things, but then you think twice about Saw 2 or Saw 3. But I think, actually, my character was dead, wasn't he?
You crack me up. Next question, please.
Would you like to return to Broadway? And have you arranged visitation rights with Bear?
I wonder where Bear is. But I guarantee you that Bear is living grandly somewhere. He's a world champion obedience dog. He does crazy, elaborate military maneuvers, and he's one of the finest tracking animals on the planet. So he has a whole world where he's a star in his own right. He probably has a great agent. I don't know if I'll cross paths with him again. He might remember me. We got along all right. He would always walk really well with me. And, I have at home a dog that weighs 7 pounds. And that dog, Boker, that played Bear, he weighs 95 pounds. So I wasn't used to having to kind of wrangle an animal that strong and that impetuous. Because Bear he's super obedient, but he's like any other dog. If he sees a squirrel or, a pizza cart or something, he's going to go. And if you're trying to do dialogue, you want that leash wrapped around your... He was good, though.
Next question, please.
Hi, Michael. Nice to meet you again.
Hi.
And it's not just Boger. There are 5 dogs who play Bear.
Who's counting?
I'm counting. There are 5. There are 5.
I know. I didn't want to give it up, but yeah, Lola came in season 4.
Yeah, the swimming scene, the swimming pool scene.
Yeah, and then there was Gotcha.
A gotcha in season 5.
Yeah. And if you go back and watch carefully, you'll see the dog shrinking over the course of several seasons.
Oh, and what's your favorite scene in season 5? And what's the favorite moment you enjoy the most?
Gee, in season 5, there are a lot of good scenes. For dramatic intensity, I like that scene in the interrogation room in episode 10 when the FBI guy is interviewing me, and I'm telling him how sick I am of living with these rules, and then I say, so the only thing I need to decide is how to kill you. And he says, I can get you written up for threatening a federal officer right now if that's how you want to play it. And I look at him and I go, I wasn't talking to you. Because all this time he's been talking to Samaritan, because he knows Samaritan is in the room. I love all that. Anything that's a conversation between a human and an artificial intelligence, I really like that stuff.
Next question, please.
Hey, Michael.
Hi.
I was actually lucky enough to be an extra on Person of Interest. So my question to you is, after the run, what is one thing that you want to take away from the show that will, stay with you?
I don't know if I have, a talismanic moment or... some of the worst memories are the best. You remember freezing cold days. You remember days when you were covered in snow. And you were so cold you could barely enunciate your lines. Being on tops of buildings and in vaults deep under the earth, subway tunnels at night.
Ooh, what is a subway tunnel like at night?
Well, it's highly monitored is what it is. They're very strict. But yeah, I guess working on a set that is the city of New York and having apparently unlimited access to all its insides and outsides, it was pretty cool. I'll never forget. I mean, for the rest of my life, I'm going to go around the city and I'm going to go, oh my God, this is where we shot that scene.
Mm-hmm. And last question, please.
Hello, Michael. How are you?
Good, thanks.
I heard you talk a lot about scripts. So my question is, when it comes to choosing a script, is it something that is a good script based off of instinct? Because sometimes there have been good movies, TV shows, and series that were written perfectly, but then the audience just doesn't get it.
Yeah, that can happen, but it's not. You have no control over that. The only thing you can control is, I mean, in my case, I'm not sure I can even control how I react to a script. I'm just going to like it or not. I'll just get excited about it or not. You kind of know. I mean, I've been at it for a while. When I read a script, I go, oh, God, I would kill to play that character. That character could be fun or a challenge, something like that. But as I said, I'm looking for language that is worth listening to more than a couple of times. You know, you read a long speech that looks like a theater speech on the page, and you think, they must have something important to say, because in TV, they don't usually let you have a speech that long because they want to keep things moving. So it must contain, you know, the philosophical goods of the episode, or it must be the writers finally getting a complicated idea off their chest, and I think that's good. I want to have my brain teased, and I want to tease the audience's brain a little bit too, or challenge them to think in a more complicated way about some ethical issue.
Well, thank you so much, Michael. And Person of Interest is streaming now.
I think it is.
It is. We can verify it right now. But thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.